When you look around at the world, it feels like we're just lurching from one crisis to another ecological, social, you name it. It's a lot. But what if the real problem isn't just about politics or technology? What if it's about something deeper, the very way we see the world? Today, we're going to look at a huge shift in thinking and how it's actually reshaping something as personal as faith. Okay, let's get into it. The physicist Fritjof Capra really nailed it decades ago. He said our biggest crises are basically crises of perception. And what he meant was, it's not that we don't have solutions to our problems, it's that we're looking at everything through an old, outdated lens. We're trying to solve today's interconnected problems with a mindset that's hundreds of years old. So we're going to build this whole explainer around that one big idea, a crisis of perception. It's this crisis that's forcing us, whether we realize it or not, to find a new worldview. One that moves us away from seeing a world of separate, disconnected things to one of deep, fundamental connection. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On one hand, you've got the old mechanical worldview. Think of the universe as a giant clock. Our job was to take it apart, figure out how all the little gears work, and get it under our control. In that view, we're separate from nature. We're just looking in from the outside. But now, a different idea is taking hold, the holistic worldview. Here, the universe isn't a machine at all. It's more like a living, breathing organism. Everything is connected. And get this, the whole system actually shapes how the individual parts behave. We're not just observers anymore, we're participants in the whole thing. And right there, that's the million-dollar question. If our basic understanding of reality is shifting this dramatically, you just know it's going to have a massive impact on theology, on how we think about God, about creation, and, our place in all of it. So let's really dig into this idea of the world as an organism. I mean, what does an interconnected faith even look like? If you start to believe that everything is connected, like cells in a body, then suddenly your actions have these ripple effects you just can't ignore. What you do in one part of the system is going to affect everything else. And that changes the game for theology. And you can see that shift right here. The focus just explodes beyond just saving your own individual soul. Now, the Holy Spirit is seen as renewing the entire creation, not just people. That puts a whole new spotlight on our responsibility for the planet and for each other. Your personal ethics, they're no longer separate from social justice. They're totally intertwined. Some theologians even use this powerful phrase calling us God's co-creators, meaning we have a real hands-on responsibility to help shape the future. Okay. But that leads to a really important question. If we're moving away from a simple step-by-step rulebook, how in the world do we know what the right thing to do is? If truth isn't just a list of facts to memorize, then what is it? To even begin to answer that, we've got to look at traditions that have always had a different way of knowing. And one of the best examples out there is the Pentecostal movement, which has always emphasized that knowing God is less about memorizing doctrines and way more about a direct, lived experience. Now, before we go any further, just a quick definition of a key term here, hermeneutics. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. It's just the study of how we interpret things, especially how we read a text, like the Bible, and figure out what it means. And how you answer that question is at the absolute heart of this whole conversation. So, the traditional way of doing things, especially in certain circles, is to treat the Bible like a collection of propositions. Basically, a divinely inspired textbook of facts and rules. Your job is to learn the rules and apply them. It's a very logical, mechanical approach. And then, Pentecostalism comes along and just flips that whole idea on its head. It asks, what if theology doesn't start with a rule, but with an encounter, with an experience? Suddenly, the Bible isn't just a rule book, it's a library of stories about God interacting with people, and it gives us the language to understand our own encounters today. Theologian Marius Nell just sums this up perfectly. He says that for Pentecostals, truth isn't a what, it's a who, it's a person. So knowing the truth isn't about acing a test, it's about building a living, breathing, growing relationship. That's a huge shift from just having static information. Okay, so if knowing comes from relationship, how does that actually work in the real world? Well, if your whole theology is based on encounter, it's got to change how you interact with people who believe differently than you. And this has led to a really interesting new framework called encounterology. So what is encounterology? Well, the idea is that we should stop trying to cram other religions and denominations into these neat little boxes with labels like exclusivist or pluralist. Instead, we should just focus on what actually happens when real people from different faiths or even different Christian traditions sit down and talk to each other.
And there's a method to it. It's a pretty clear 3-step process. First, you have to consciously set aside your preconceived ideas. Just put them on a shelf. Second, you actually have to go and have a real conversation with someone, not a debate, an encounter. And third, you let that real lived experience actually shape and transform your understanding. You're letting the relationship teach you, not the other way around.
And you can see why Pentecostalism is such a natural fit for this. Its whole history is a movement of encounters. I mean, the original Pentecost story in the Bible is literally about people from different countries suddenly being able to understand each other. The famous Azusa Street revival that launched the modern movement brought black and white worshipers together. At its core, the belief is that the Holy Spirit is what makes these powerful, barrier-breaking encounters possible. So what's the big takeaway here? What does all this mean for us, right now? It means we start to prioritize dialogue over dogma. It means we start seeing people from other traditions not as arguments to be won, but as human beings to be encountered. And this table just lays it all out. The traditional approach starts with fixed labels, with assumptions, and the goal is usually to defend your position. But the encounterology approach, it starts with a real lived experience. The goal isn't necessarily to convert the other person, but for both of you to be authentically transformed. And your view of them isn't based on what a book told you, it's based on the actual time you spent with them. And look, this isn't just some academic theory. In a world so often torn apart by religious conflict, this way of thinking has the power to really change things. It can build bridges, not just between different Christian groups, but between entirely different world religions. It can turn faith from a source of conflict into a source of real connection. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. If you start to think of faith as an encounter, a relationship to be lived, not a position to be defended, it changes everything. The entire point of religious dialogue gets reframed. It's not about winning an argument anymore. It's about sharing a journey. And that really makes you wonder, what new conversations, what amazing new possibilities for understanding could open up right in front of us?